Have you ever stood there holding a garment in your hands at the thrift store and you like it, you think it has a lot of potential, but you just have absolutely zero idea on what to look for in how to alter it or refashion it into something else? Yeah, I know because I've been there myself. As a beginner sewer, it kind of seems like some magical talent that people have in to be able to have the eye or the vision for refashioning, and it just seems really hard. And I want to, in this video, talk about, there's usually 5 things that I look through as a sort of mental checklist that I mentally checklist off in my mind each time I assess a garment for refashioning and altering, and of course, how you can do this too. Welcome, my lovely ladies and gents. Thank you for joining me today. For those of you that have watched a few of my videos, or those that have not, welcome. My name is Evelyn Wood. I'm a lifelong dressmaker and founder of VintageSewingSchool.com. And those of you that have been here already, you know that to me sewing encompasses many different facets, and that includes mending and refashioning and altering clothes, the ready-made garments. And we are on an absolute roll this month with topics about refashioning, which is a good thing because as we all have to stay in our homes currently, at least if you're watching this in real time, and these are things we can go to your closet right now and start refashioning things. So I think this is a great way to do your stay at home and sew by a refashion project. I know a lot of you do tell me that you struggle with having the vision and being able to see what something could be. And it's sort of assessing garments. So there is a set of things that I go through every time when I look at garments at the thrift store or in my own stash. There's a mental checklist of things that I go through that I tick off to kind of evaluate clothing to see if I can transform it into what I want. So I thought, let's break it down into, I've got 5 different steps that you can use to actually mentally checklist and give you a better sort of idea of how to look at something and how to evaluate it, the things that you should be looking at inside a garment to know if you can transform it. We actually don't go to the inside of the garment for a little bit, and you'll see why. I do this in this order. So the first one is I look at it for the fabric, for the color, and the quality. So all too often I have bought things that are not in my color palette and they have gone to waste because it's just, I don't wear it even though it might be right on all these other things. If it's not my color, I don't wear it. So I stick to my color palette. Now the fabric, the type, these days I really only buy natural fibers. So pretty much, as you will know as well, 97% of all garments you find at the thrift store these days are polyester or at least polyester blends. So I like to try and buy natural fibers wherever possible. And so for me these days, it's like a little scanner. I can just go over the rack. I'm like, beep, 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 and I can just, I can spot a natural fiber from across the room these days. That is something that you get better at, and it's a topic I think you're probably interested in. We might do a video in the future on how to find that. Do let me know if you are interested. And then also the quality of the garment. So, you know, if it's a good quality, bad quality, the fabric, if it's good quality, if it's pilling, that's not going to be any good. If it just looks really cheaply made, I usually might pass on it. So these are the sort of first things that I look for. But bear in mind when you're very first starting refashioning, and actually I did a video on the sort of levels of refashioning last week. I'll put a link to that one below. When you're just starting, you can actually, I would suggest skipping this one entirely. Don't worry about the fabric type or the quality of the garment or anything like that yet, or at least save those for when you get maybe a few refashions in and you're a little better, because just basically get practice pieces first, and it doesn't matter on the fabric or the quality of the garment. It's probably better that you practice on the not so good ones and save the really good ones for later. But this is my first step. I look at the fabric, the color, and the overall quality of the garment. When they fit into my categories, then I move on to the next step. And this is where I look at the overall design and silhouette of a garment. This includes looking at things like the neckline, the waistline, what are the sleeve shapes like, what is the skirt length, what is the skirt shape like, the overall silhouette and the design features in the garment. Now, I'm not thinking about anything of how I would transform this or anything like that, but just the overall shape. Does it have the kinds of silhouettes? Does it resemble the kind of thing that you want to transform it into, perhaps? Maybe you're looking at a decade or an era in particular that you're trying to replicate. And so does it have a similar silhouette to that? Or maybe just the style of clothes that you always wear. Is it sort of similar? For example, you can't really make a 50s fit and flare dress from something that's Empire line or has no waist seam, or, you know, so it's got to have a close silhouette and shape. As I said, not thinking about any of the how or the what, but just looking at the overall silhouette at this point. When it passes this step, I move on to the imagine what it could be. Now, this is really where you let your imagination run wild. Now, I definitely say don't get bogged down with the how you could do any of this. Just imagine what it could be. So could you add a new collar? Could you add new buttons? Could you change the lengths? Could you take it apart to take it in? Could you nib in the waist? Could you add embroidery somehow? Add pockets? Could you reshape it and redesign for the more advanced refashioners out there? You know, reshape it in a way. Think of what you could turn the design and silhouette from the last step. What could you turn that into? So really let your imagination run wild here. For example, my yellow 90s dress that I found this time, it fit the silhouette. I was looking for a 1940s I thought it would fit into. So it had a sort of strong shoulder. It had the design lines. It was, first of all, a nice rayon fabric. It was the right color. I should go those first. Past that step, the silhouette was close with a nice boxy sort of shoulder, had all the panel seams, the right length of skirt for a 40s sort of look, but it didn't really look 40s yet. This is where I imagined what it could be, and I thought this amazing big sort of like Revere lapel collar in red velvet would really give that 1940s vibe to this dress. So that's when I really got to that step, and that's how I've applied that in that particular refashion so far. For an example, next checklist item that I go through is now I try it on for a close fit. So this is now obviously try it on and see how it fits you. So the closer the fit it is, the easier it is going to be to refashion, because the larger it is and the more oversized it is a lot harder to have to take in all of those sizes. So bear in mind, think about where you're at in your skill level. If you've never taken anything down 4 sizes before, unless that's what you're trying to, you know, work and build your skill levels to and test yourself there, it's probably not feasible. You're probably looking for something that fits you well. Say if you're a sort of more beginner, that sort of fits well, but you're just adding changes to it rather than downsizing it, as well as doing all the fancy design changes. The more advanced you are, the more you're able to downscale and make those bigger changes like that. So try it on and see how it fits. Do you need to add length? Do you need to nib in the waist? Do all those things. Again, not thinking about the how just yet, but see how it fits you and assess there. For another example, my overall refashion that I have done before in the past, these were so big and oversized, it was really difficult. And the level of difficulty involved in that refashion was mostly due to the resizing nature of it. Had I had overalls that almost fit me, it would just be a few little design changes and the whole thing would have been a lot easier and less complicated to kind of actually maneuver and do. I will link those videos down below as well for those of you who want to watch. Once my garment passes all of those checklist items, then I move on to the next step, and that is to take a look inside and look at the garment, the construction of the garment. So this might surprise you, you might automatically jump to that first, but I do this last because to me it has to pass all of those other critical factors before I start looking inside. And this is a big one because there's a lot of things here that will knock it off the refashion criteria checklist from here. Turn it inside out and have a really good look. So the big ones are the seams, because now you already know what you want to do to the item, right? So now we're just looking, can we do all those things that you've visualized? So you know if you need to take it down a size, how much fitting you need to do, and the design changes that you might want to do, because we've already have completed those in the last items. So now we figure out how we're going to do that. Can we do it with the construction of the garment? So look at the seams is a big one. Are they open or closed? So closed seams will make it sometimes a bit trickier, because you'll have to undo all of the overlocking to actually get in and make changes to the seams. Open seams are great, but few and far between, as you probably know. Is there actual seam allowance there? So most garments these days, you know, have teeny tiny little nothing 5mm seam allowances. So there's absolutely nothing there. Often when you unpick it, it almost falls apart. If you're downsizing, that's okay, because you'll take in more and can create different seam allowances. But you know, if you can't let it out if there's no fabric there, or you need to get creative and figure out how. Have a look at the zip. Can you change it? Do you need to change it? The waistband, if you need to add or subtract it, can you just change it? Like this waist curve here, if I just take all this in from the sides, I'm probably just taking the curve off the waist, not taking it evenly through the garment so that it has a nice flow for a new size. Have a look at the hems. Are they easy to redo? How is it done already? What kind of button features are there? Do you need to change and alter that? Is it too hard? Are there plackets? Have a look at the construction and see if with the construction that garment has, if it allows you to do those fun design and fitting features that you had already planned to do in the previous steps. This is the how, and this is actually the last thing that I checklist and look at garments when I'm assessing them for refashioning. So let's recap. What are the 5 steps here? First of all, I look at the fabric, what it's made from, the color, and the quality of the item. And then I have a look, and I look at the overall design and silhouette of the item. And then if it passes that checklist criteria, I imagine what it could be. What could this garment be? Then I try it on for a close fit to see what fitting adjustments might need to be done. And then is the final step, and then I look at the inside garment construction to figure out the how. Can I do all of those things that I have just thought of? These are all the things that I go armed with every time I pick up an item at the thrift store and I'm looking for it, and I do those things in this order because, as you know now, it sort of helps to eliminate the things that aren't good before you're looking at the seams of every single item. But that's the list that I go through, and that helps me assess a garment to know whether I'm going to be able to alter it to fit me and to do the design changes that I want to do. And I'm sure having a checklist, a criteria or checklist that you can tick off next time that you go to the thrift store, and thinking about it sort of in this way is really going to help you be able to assess garments better and help you along on that refashioning journey, so to say. Or hopefully you go to your wardrobe right now and have a look and see what you've got. I would also really love to know leave me a comment below. Are there any other checklist items that you go through in when you're looking and assessing at garments? What are the main things you look for? Leave me a comment below. I love to read them. Make sure you go and read all those comments, because you guys all have the best ideas and input too. Sharing is caring, of course, and this is how we all learn more and develop our sewing skills. Thank you so much for watching. Like this video if you like it, and there are links, remember, below to all those other videos. I have a number on refashioning that we've gone through recently, so do have a look in the description box below for those. And then until next time, happy sewing. Bye.